Good evening and welcome to the Makeup Club Officer Training. I am here tonight. Welcome to the Norman Chamber of Commerce. We are hosting this evening's training, and without further ado, I am going to welcome tonight's trainer, Mr. Matt Branstetter. Also happens to be my father. He is a former DTM, or he's a DTM, former governor of our district, so please help me welcome Matt Branstetter. Okay.
All right, welcome everyone. We've got a lively group. I'm going to work on this pretty quick, but if you have questions at any time, I'm more than willing to take those questions. This is Club Officer Training, and I always like to say that this is the best office you will ever have, because there's no fundraisers, no angry parents, no group politics. Well, there might be some group politics. As a general rule, this office is going to be something that is actually going to allow you to be a better officer when you take some of those other organizations. Before you can be a good officer, you have to be a great member. So how do you become a great member? Well, first, like they always say, just show up. 90% of life is showing up. Like the Boy Scouts, always be prepared. Many of the basic roles only take a few minutes for you to prepare. Obviously, speeches and Toastmasters take a little more time, but the other roles are going to allow you to do more. Always bring your CL manual, your Competent Leader. The Competent Leader Manual has only been around for about 5 years, and clubs are still struggling with how to organize that into their meeting. But for our new members, we need to make sure they bring that manual, that they get evaluated on that at every club meeting, that it becomes a part of your club's organization. Fill your roles, and if you can't be there, find your own replacement. Don't put the burden on your other. Learn to listen. I've told everyone that over the years in Toastmasters, I've become a better listener. My wife would disagree with that comment. Only give manual speeches. 3 reasons that you only give manual speeches. First, it will stretch you as a speaker. If you're always just getting up and doing a glorified table topics, you're not going to improve. Look at the things that are in your manual and try to actually meet those objectives. The third reason, it helps your club meet your goals. We'll talk a lot about goals in just a little bit for the club. But finally, and most importantly, not having a manual speech is unfair to your evaluator. Let me restate that. Not giving a manual speech is unfair to your evaluator. I could tell 3 or 4 stories. I'll tell one. We had a woman that a couple years ago, she made it to the district finals. She was runner-up in the district in the speech contest. She is a quite accomplished speaker. One day in the club meeting, we didn't have enough speakers, so she said, I'll speak, but she didn't have a manual. I had a young man who had not been in Toastmasters very long, and he was one of the guys that we all know in Toastmasters that is all they can do to walk through the door. Shy, reserved. Our speaker gave one of her great speeches, and at the end, the poor evaluator stood up and he looked at his blank sheet of paper because he didn't have a manual for guidance, and he kind of said, he hemmed and he hawed and it was brutal. Finally he said, I liked your speech, it was great, and he sat down. After the meeting, he came up to me and he suggested that maybe it was time for him to get out of Toastmasters because he didn't feel like he was getting much out of it. Always do manual speeches. Learn to live by an agenda. Don't you wish that every meeting you ever went to had an agenda like we do in Toastmasters, and that we follow it as quickly and concisely as we do? Commit to completing at least one educational or leadership every 12 to 24 months. And especially those new people that are working on their first 10 speeches, try to help them really get involved to get through that CC manual in 12 months. and be someone that invites guests. Bring one new guest every 3 months. All right. Learn how to navigate the Toastmasters website. This is a tool that will be not only valuable to you as a member, but will be valuable to you as an officer. I tried to decide whether I should go on live tonight, but I knew some of you would say, then we'd have to worry about whether it booted up. So I just made a few screenshots so that you can see. Learn how to navigate the Toastmasters site. The first place, and that's a little blurry, is just a simple login. Toastmasters has made this very simple in that your login is simply your email or your member number. For a long time, it was the member number, which I could never remember, and then you had to have a specific password, which I also couldn't remember. But now that they allow me to do my email, and it will be the email that you signed up when you gave it to Toastmasters. That's your login. You then are able, the first time you log in, create your own username, something that I can remember. It's my birthday, by the way. For just members, at the very top, there's a place called My Account. In My Account, you're able to change your name and password. You're able to change your address, your contact information. If you do change emails, change your name, for those of you who change your names frequently. You can check your educational award history, so you can see what awards or what you've won. You can look at anybody that you've sponsored, or your membership history, what clubs you've been a member of, when you were a member of it. Now, it doesn't go back but about 8 to 9 years, because this is when they really upgraded a lot of this stuff, but you're able to see all of that information for about that long. Even if you order stuff. And what's neat also about Toastmasters in the digital era is that a lot of the material now that we used to have to pay for, just like when we would have a club contest, you had to order a packet. If you didn't order your club packet a couple months in advance, then by the time you got to your club contest, you didn't have any of the forms. Now, as we'll find out, sometimes people will download their contest stuff 10 minutes before the contest. Maybe it was better the old way. But there's a lot of information for those of you who are simply members to go on and learn about what you're doing in Toastmasters, but also about how to be a better member. All right, now let's go to the meat of tonight's meeting. You as an officer. Because you've logged in as your account, you can now go to Club Central. Just once you're logged in, click on Club Central. It will bring up the clubs that you're a member of, that you are an officer. I'm a member of 3 clubs, but you'll notice that I only have back office access to 2 clubs. They're the 2 clubs that I'm an officer in. Oh, by the way, make sure I sign up on the form tonight. So if you are an officer, now as a member, you don't have access to this. As an area governor, you don't have access to your clubs in your area. The district governor does not have access to this information in the back rooms of the office of the clubs. Only your 7 officers can go into this back office. But again, they can do so many things. They can submit new member application. They can pay dues. And we're going to talk about several of these. You can change, if you need to change where your meeting is, you can let that, so then it immediately goes onto the site, and if anybody's looking up your club, it would be there. You can update your officer information, and you want to do this at least once a year to make sure that your officers are on this so that they have this access to the back office. You can submit awards for your members. All things that we used to either have to mail in or fax in, and we had to worry about when they were going to get there. You can view your DCP reports for your club. So there's a lot of things that you can do in your back office for your club business. We're going to talk a lot about the DCP and why that is important. But here's just a snapshot of a DCP actually is for early risers. You can see that they have currently 43 members on the book, one of the larger clubs in Oklahoma, that they've already accomplished 3 goes. They have a couple others in the works. They had their officers trained, a couple more are here tonight. So they will end up with 7 officers trained, one of the more successful clubs in the district. All right, let's talk about the Distinguished Club Program. There are 10 points. The Distinguished Club Program, if you get 5 or more points, you are considered a distinguished club. 7 or more is a select distinguished club. And 9 or more points is a presidential distinguished club. And that really should be the go of a club. Now, why are we concerned about the Distinguished Club Program? Is it so we can get another ribbon for our banner? Well, in early risers it is. When your president's distinguished for 13 consecutive years, that next ribbon is important. What the Distinguished Club Program will tell you is that you are doing the right things for your members, that they are accomplishing their goals, and therefore you are working the program to make your members better, and the members are the most important part of Toastmasters. If they are not getting what they need, then your club is not effectively meeting its objectives. In the Distinguished Club Program, the first 6 goes are all about education. We have a couple of members here who are just in their first or second speech of their Competent Communication Manual. When they finish 10 speeches, they will qualify as one of our 2 people for that award. So we're looking for 2 people during the fiscal year of Toastmasters, which is July 1st to June 30th. So we will look for 2 of our members that will hopefully finish their CC manual during that year. We may have some members that are already on 7, 8, or 9, and they will only need to do 1 or 2 more speeches in this year to get that credit. Have some people who are just starting first, second speech, and we'll try to see if, as I said earlier, if they can complete 1 manual level in 1 12-month period. Then the second education award is simply 2 more CCs. The next one is where we start talking about the advanced manuals. Once you finish the CC, then you are given 2 more manuals, each with 5 programs instead of the 10 in the CC manual. And now you complete 2 manuals to get an advanced communicator. And there are several levels: advanced communicator bronze, silver, and gold. And you work up to each level. When I got into Toastmasters, I didn't think about getting to DTM. I simply did what was next. They handed me a CC manual. At that time, it was a CTM manual. And when I completed those 10 speeches, I said, next. They gave me 2 more manuals, and I went forward. Toastmasters is a little bit about the journey, and all of a sudden, as the journey goes through, you get to Distinguished Toastmaster. And then some of us start over again. The same thing is like the 2 CCs. You do 1 advanced communicator, then you do 1 more. One of the other things, if you've seen the Toastmasters logo, it says where leaders are made. We are very important to try to create leaders. Just like I started about in my very first slide, where I talked about many of you will go out and be leaders in your community, in your churches, in your chambers, in your Little League sports organizations. This is why officers training here will make you better leaders in those opportunities. The next point is 1 competent leader. As I said already, bring your CL manual. Simply bringing that manual every meeting will get you about 95% of the way through that. Helping on a couple advanced things like running a contest, running a public relations campaign, a couple of those things that you have to step out of the traditional roles of a meeting. and then again one more CL, ALB, ALS, or DTM. So education is 60% of the club program. This alone would get you to a distinguished club. Membership. Membership clubs rise and fall on membership. And almost every club goes through cycles. We talk about how, and I brag a little bit about how outstanding Early Risers is with 43 members. When I joined, there were 6 members. Not long after I joined, we actually had the discussion, do we ban the club? Because it just wasn't working. But slowly over the years, and one of the big changes there is we started doing manual speeches. We started being more organized, and we made our club more attractive to those guests when they did come. Before that, the guests would come and they would leave and we'd never see them again. So having a good meeting, having an organized meeting, and having a fun meeting makes your guests come back and join. Your goal for one point is to get 4 new members. The second membership goal is for more new members. I believe that you're probably going to need to attract about 8 new members every year just to keep your club vibrant and growing. Unfortunately, some of our people leave Toastmasters. Now, of all the people that I've ever talked to, and we actually even had the University of Oklahoma did a little study, and they called people who had quit Toastmasters. And what they found is that almost no one leaves Toastmasters because they're unhappy with Toastmasters. They leave because their life changed. Their job transferred them. Their job changed the time in which they could come to the meeting. Their family, we have one club that we thought that we were having a baby boom in it because about half of the young people in there started having babies all of a sudden. Some of them were able to work that into their schedule and stay, and some of those people dropped out of Toastmasters. And we think some of them will be back. But life changes and people leave Toastmasters, but almost never because they're unhappy with the program or the group they're in. And that was an amazing revelation to me. So we have to keep bringing in new blood. And then new blood is just exciting because then they start doing the icebreakers, and that's probably the most fun that you can have as an old guy in Toastmasters like me, is watching those icebreakers. We do training. You need a minimum of 4 officers from each club. Not that I've seen, but I think it's still 4. We can double check that. The question was, they thought that it's maybe changed to 5. I'll try to find that out, but I still think it's 4 officers trained twice a year. So in the summer months, we have training to bring in typically our new officers who've just either moved into a row or moved up in a row at a club, because most of the clubs will change their officers on June or July 1st to coincide with the fiscal year. A few clubs will have semi-annual officer changes. Then we have a winter meeting, and typically that will have more of the officers now that have been a team together for a little while. So the officers training 4 minimum for each club in 2 periods, summer and winter. And then, as the old saying goes, nothing's finished until the paperwork's in. So at least once a year, you need to get your officers list in on time. You need to get your dues in on time. They did raise this to 8 members. It had been 6 members, so a club to stay in good standing has to have at least 8 dues-paying members in a year. Now, there's always one catch. We talked about the 5, 7, or 9 points. Nothing counts unless your club is at a minimum of 20 members, if you started the year with 20 or more members, or a growth of 5 members if your club started below 20. Early Risers, back when they had 6 members, we were a distinguished club that next year. That was the last year we were a distinguished club, because every year since we were President's Distinguished. But we went from 6 to 11 members. We had a 5-member growth, so we qualified. The next year we went from that 11 to about 17. We were President's Distinguished Club and started that streak of 13 consecutive years, but we only had 17 members. The next year we barely got to 20, but this time it was 20, and that's all we needed. And ever since then, we've never had any problem getting to the 20. We talk about clubs that are struggling clubs of having 12 or less. Now, I believe you can have a really good meeting if at least 12 people show up, because if you think about all the rows in a club meeting, 12 will make a good meeting. But people go on vacations. Some people have job conflicts. So to truly have 12 showing up on a regular basis, you need that 18 to 20 members. And to really keep a club really good and vibrant, staying at that 20 to 25 members, where there's a regular attendance of 15 to 20, you will see a true difference in your club if you can keep those numbers up. So a club survives by attracting new members. The goal every year is 8 new members. So let's start through our offices a little bit. And I want to talk about how every officer has a role in membership. We start with the Vice President of Public Relations. They're the person who is going to try to bring in new members. Now, we're all members of the PR team, because we all want to help bring in. Today, we can use Facebook, and a lot of clubs are now attracting people through Facebook. It doesn't take much to set up a Facebook page. If you don't know how to do it, find a 16-year-old. They can put it together for you. You can then create an event like we did tonight. You can do some things. You have yourself and all of your members like the page, everyone that's on Facebook. And then that spreads that news to everyone in your community that you know, that you are going to create a website. Some clubs create their own website. Toastmasters actually has a ready-made template. So all you have to do is go in and create your own information and populate that. A lot of different people do it that way. Some do it, have their own. And it kind of depends on how many nerds or geeks you have in your club as to which way you want to go. Put out flyers. Go to various areas, put flyers up in your community and advertise. In-person visits. If we're an organization that is talking about how we communicate with each other, what is better than word-of-mouth advertising? I'll add one other thing. Anytime that you put in an order to Toastmasters International, you can request 25 free magazines. Those become great marketing materials, because you can then make labels that says Distinguished Toastmasters meets at the Norman Chamber of Commerce every Tuesday morning from 8 to 9. You can take that down and put it in doctors' offices. You can put it in the libraries. You can put it in different areas. It's also a great tool that when you do have a guest, hand them that magazine. Now they take that home, and just in case they forgot, you can have the email or the phone number or both for your Vice President of Membership. So if they have questions, they can call them up. The Sergeant of Arms, they prepare the room. You want to prepare the room as if you are expecting guests. Greet guests as they enter. Now, a couple clubs that I know of actually assigns a role each week as greeter, so that the Sergeant of Arms a lot of times are busy hanging the flag, putting out the timepieces, getting all the ballots and all the other paraphernalia out. And so they might miss a guest coming in. If you have a person who's assigned to be the greeter, they can greet that person, introduce them to the Vice President of Membership, and even during the meeting, during the business section, you can be the person as the greeter who introduces them and makes them feel welcome. Every officer, and if possible, every member should greet the guest. Let me go back to 15 years ago when I walked into Early Risers. Now there was only 6 people, but every man in that room, yes I said every man because it was an all-male club at that time. We had a woman on the roster, but we never saw her. And every one of them came over and shook my hand, introduced themselves, and said hello. That same time frame, I went to another organization that I really wanted to join. I walked in, not a single person came over to say hi. It was a lunch meeting. They didn't tell me if I should go order lunch, if I should sit down first, if I should wait for someone to come and ask me for the order. And after a little bit, I just left. And I didn't go back for years. I finally went back to that organization as I had gained a little more personal confidence and went back a few times, but I still never became a regular member of that organization. Toastmasters made me feel welcome. Now in Early Risers, if we had every member shake your hand, you would probably walk away with a numb hand. But I would hazard to guess if you walked into our club meeting that if at least 10 to 12 people didn't come over and say hi to you, and then after the meeting, another 5 or 6 will come over and say, how did you like the meeting? What did you like about it best? I would be surprised. I would be shocked. Greet your guests. Vice President of Membership. You should have an application. When people call me and ask if they can visit a club, I always say, yes, you may visit a club anytime. And I will warn them, if it's a good club, they will ask you to join, but they won't twist your arm. They'll give you an application, but they won't expect a check that day. Be sure that you have an application. Some clubs will actually create a guest folder. This is where you can put that magazine, where you can put that application, where you can put some other information that maybe you've got from Toastmasters International, or something that you've created yourself that just talks about the roles, so that they understand what it is that they saw that day. Know how to explain the dues and fees. I see some people really struggle. The Vice President of Membership and probably the Treasurer needs to learn how to do those fees. It's pretty simple. It's a checklist. A new member is always going to pay $20. Then you go down to the prorated part. Depending on what month they're going to join, you come over and add that amount. The only hard part is as a club, are you charging club dues? Most clubs charge about $1 to $2 a month. And just like the prorated amount, if they're coming in for 2 months, and if your club's dues are $1 a month, then you add $2 more if they're coming in August. It's pretty simple, but a lot of times when people are trying to fill out that application, they forget the club dues. Invite them to join. Welcome them to visit again and again and again with no obligation. Even invite them to visit other clubs. If there's other clubs in the area, this might not be the right time frame when your club meets. Oh, Tuesday mornings isn't a good time frame for you. How about Mondays at noons? In Norman, we have 4 different opportunities for clubs. Can't come to a meeting in Norman? How about one in Kingfisher? So I'm always an advocate for them, and I will easily say this because if they're coming to one of my clubs, they're going to be willing to come back unless the time frame's wrong, because we've made it. Process the new members online immediately. So as soon as they hand you an application, take that and put it in. Even if you don't have the ability to pay the dues, any officer can put that membership app in. So if your treasurer's not here or your VP of membership's not here, any officer can take that application, go back to the login that we talked about earlier, put that application in, and now they're in the system. Send an email to your treasurer and say, hey, I've got Sue in. As soon as you get a chance, would you log in? Because sometimes the treasurer may be the only one that has access to the account. Most of the clubs today that I'm aware of have a debit card for their account, so they can go online now and just put in that fees for the dues. If you don't have a debit card, then the treasurer can immediately cut a check, send it off to TI. They can go in, look up that new member and their number, and make sure the check gets credited to the right account. And then what my clubs do is we provide new manuals on the spot. So we keep at least 3 or 4 CL manuals and CC manuals in our club collection. So the minute you join and you hand an application and a check, then we hand you 2 manuals. Now what I started doing this year is I put those in a big envelope, and again I made a label that says, here are your 2 new manuals. You will be receiving 2 manuals from Toastmasters. Don't even bother opening those. Just bring them back. So now you replace those to the club. You bring in the manual from TI. I have another one of those labels. Put it right over your name so nobody can look at your name and address. And the next member that comes in will get that set of manuals. That way, within just a couple weeks, your members are ready and able to see what their roles are and how to get ready for their first icebreaker speech and not have to wait. Again, the stuff comes so fast that maybe we don't have to do this now that we do everything online, because people will get those set of manuals in just a few days. Back when we had to mail the check in and wait for everything to come back, sometimes it was a few weeks before they would get those manuals, and members would get a little frustrated. Today it's a little faster, but still I like the idea, you give me a check, I'll give you something. Get it right now. The treasurer and secretary, process those checks immediately. Pay TI the minute the Vice President membership notifies you. So that way the member's in the system and those manuals are on the way. Obviously, as secretary or treasurer, you need to pay dues on or before October 1st and April 1st. At least 8 members. Get at least 8 in. Even if you have a few stragglers, you can add those in as they go. Add new members to your distribution list. This is where the secretary may come in depending on how your club handles their distribution list, how your club does their notification of roles. Vice President of Education. This is probably another one that I see slip through the cracks all too often. Assign a mentor immediately. I would say that I was probably guilty of not wanting to sign a mentor immediately because I wanted to see how the person maybe fit. They came in, and even after a couple members, you would see them sit with the same person. They became comfortable and familiar with one person in the room. And I said, okay, there's our mentor, and there's our mentee, and I'll put them together. But then I found that we were waiting way too long. Assign the mentor immediately. Even if they develop that relationship with one of the other people, they're still able to get the benefit of learning from both the mentor and their newfound friend. Make sure they understand the 2 manuals. I mentioned before that a lot of clubs are still struggling with how to explain the CL manual. Try to work on that. And try to schedule the new members icebreaker within 4 weeks. I know that some of them are going to be nervous about it, they don't want to, but let them know that they're getting into an opportunity. And with only a rare occasion, should there ever be a situation where you would go longer than about 4 weeks for them to get their icebreaker scheduled. Occasionally, you will have that person who is so incredibly shy that they may tell you that they just need to come sit through maybe months of meetings before they can ever get up and participate in a role. But generally, most of them will tell you they don't want to do a role, and you just have to coax them on up. But in that rare occasion, but 99.9% of your people, even if they tell you they're nervous, even if they tell you they're shy, they're here because they need to get up in front of this group, and we make it warm. The President. I steal the one line from President Ronald Reagan that says, trust but verify. So many times people are afraid to be president of an organization because there's so much that gets piled on. As I mentioned in this club, this will be the easiest office you will probably ever hold. And the president can absolutely be the easiest of all the 7 offices. If your officers are doing their job, if they follow the things that we just talked about, then all you simply have to do is let them do their job, but simply confirm that it is getting done in a timely manner. And then you have the easiest job of all. If a team member is absent when a new member arrives, then you need to be ready to pick up that slack. If the vice president of membership's not here on a day and a new guest is here, as president, you should just assume that duty. Education. As I mentioned already, the reason we're at Toastmasters is our personal self-development. And 6 of our distinguished club points are education. It's not about the club, it's about the member. We've already talked about these, but you want to learn the alphabet soup. And like any good speech, if some of you are an expert in some other field, and you give a speech to your Toastmasters friends, be careful about using the acronyms because I don't know what they mean if you're an engineer or a CPA. So learn our acronyms, but be sure that you're able to explain those to her. Same with the leadership track, where leaders are made. This is what we're about. I remember one time I had a discussion because one of the people that had been in Toastmasters longer than I had felt like the manuals that we had for leadership, and that was before we had the CL manual, but felt like there wasn't enough good material from Toastmasters International about leadership. And I thought about that for a long time. What Toastmasters allows you to do in leadership is on-the-job training. So whether you are an officer of a club, whether you're going on to be an area or division governor, or whether you're one of the district leadership team, you learn by doing. And we have such a great atmosphere of supporting our leadership teams at all levels that these individuals become better over time. And then because of this on-the-job training, of this learn by doing, of sharing and mentoring, I would now stack up the leadership training in Toastmasters against almost any leadership. We talked about complete one go and then move to the next. Move in 12 months, 24 months. One exception. Your new members should learn to work the 2 manuals, the CC manual, the CL manual, simultaneously. Get them in the habit of doing both manuals from the very beginning. Make sure that they continue to do those manuals as they move forward. Commit to 12 to 24 months, and as officers, you should lead by example. As I mentioned, I've already completed my distinguished Toastmaster. I didn't quit. I am now trying to do at least 1 CC manual a year, close to 1 CL manual a year or every 2 years, and at the same time, a little slower than I did the first time, but I'm working towards the 2nd DTM. I may or may never get to the 2nd DTM. I'm not that concerned about it, but I do want to be the example of completing at least an educational level each and every year. Go beyond the club. Your home club will be more valuable if you step outside the club and then you bring those experiences home. How do you do that? First, attend officers training twice a year. Our district is very good about having 2 to 4 large officer training, but there's just some people who can never attend on a Saturday, who can never attend on certain times. And so we do makeup officer training like we are doing tonight. But that sharing with other officers, learning from people from other clubs, you can take an idea. When I mentioned greeter, I saw someone taking notes. I got a feeling that that idea may go back to their club. I saw someone taking notes about the magazines and ordering notes. That idea may go back to their club. So going to these officers' trainings, visit other clubs. Try to visit a club that you think is stronger than yours. Try to visit a club that you think is weaker than yours. And maybe you'll go back and go, man, I'm glad I'm in this club. Or see what is the magic about a club that makes it something that allows you. The area governor for your area can suggest other clubs. Your chance to meet new Toastmasters. Attend area division speech contest. Participate as a contestant or a volunteer. Meet new Toastmasters. Have a speaker evaluation exchange with another club. You send 2 people to another club to visit. You tell them we're going to come, we're bringing 2 people, one of us will speak and one of us will be an evaluator. That way you get to hear an evaluator from a different club for your speech. Sometimes, especially in the clubs that are struggling a little bit, you're hearing evaluation from the same 2 or 3 people time in and time out. Now, maybe you're getting great evaluations and great feedback, but that different point of view is going to help you. And the same thing, if you take an evaluator to the other club, then that club gets that different point of view as well. Take your manuals and meet new Toastmasters. Attend the district conferences. There's 2 a year. Meet new Toastmasters from all over Oklahoma. I've made some valuable friendships over the years, from Altus to Enid, from Bartlesville to Atoka, from Tulsa to Oklahoma City. I now look forward to each conference and rekindling and seeing those Toastmasters. And we now have Toastmasters that will drive down from Enid to go to a cafe in Noble because one of our Toastmasters is an owner. We have people who will drive to different parts of the state once or twice a year to see each other or to have a group dinner, to celebrate birthdays. We've become very close friends. Attend the international convention and meet new Toastmasters from around the world. And what's neat about Facebook is that over the past 6 years, I have made Toastmasters friends in Germany, England, South Africa, Japan, Mexico, Jamaica, Australia, New Zealand, Texas. It's amazing what type of people you will meet as you go to these conventions. Next year we'll be in Las Vegas. Who doesn't want to go to Vegas? And if you still can't get enough Toastmasters, join a second club or build a new club with your friends and coworkers. Wouldn't you love to have every one of your coworkers being a Toastmaster so that they would learn how to do a better agenda, how to speak on time, how to keep it concise and to the point. There are a lot of resources from the district that can help you start a new club. So you don't have to do this by yourself, but it is a rewarding experience. How many clubs should you join? I won't mention. Toastmasters come in all walks of life. Different religions, different cultures, different occupations, different political views, different sex, race, and ages. But there's one thing that I found in common among every Toastmaster I ever met. They all want to improve themselves. And isn't that a wonderful group of people to associate yourself with? If I have an opportunity to talk to young people, college students or high school students, as a rule, you have to be 18 or older to join a Toastmasters club. But I always say to them, if you have the opportunity in life to surround yourself with people who want to be something better, you have a choice. You can soar with eagles, or you can lose with turkeys. So join a Toastmasters club and soar with eagles. Any questions or comments that you guys have, or something you would like to add? Well, I see. Oh, okay.
I had a question, Matt. You said there were 4 different Toastmasters here in Norman.
Yes.
Time frames, and Monday at noon, Tuesday, which is 8 to 9 hours, and what are the other 2?
The Sooner Toastmasters, which meets Thursday nights at 7 o'clock, normally at McFarland Methodist Church.
Okay.
That club is one of the oldest clubs in Oklahoma. It will be celebrating its 60th anniversary in just a couple of weeks. And then on Saturday mornings, I think on twice a month, so I can't remember if it's, I think it's 2nd and 4th Saturdays, is Asian American Christian speakers. It's a little bit of a specialty club.
Okay.
It's not limited to only Asians, and as far as I know, it's not limited to only Christians. But a lot of our foreign exchange students will join that club. But it is available in case that time frame, or if you just want to visit a different club to see something a little different. So 4 clubs in the Norman area. 88 clubs currently in District 16, which entails all of Oklahoma except the Panhandle. Once upon a time, they took the Panhandle, they put it together with the Panhandle of Texas and New Mexico and created their own district, which is probably better for everyone involved. I think there were 2 clubs in Guymon, or last I heard, there were 2 clubs in Guymon. So, 88 clubs currently active. All of them will welcome you to visit, with some exceptions. There are what's called corporate clubs. And as a corporate club, it is limited, and this is really, other than the 18 and older, corporate clubs is the only way in which we ever, quote unquote, discriminate. You have to be a member of that corporation to join that club. You can still visit, but you may have to get permission to visit. You may have to get permission to get through their security, but you can visit those clubs. Any other questions? Well, I hope you found this informative. I hope you found this something that you can take back to your clubs. I am more than willing at any time to let you contact me to see how you can take some of the other ideas that we have in our clubs and take those back to your clubs. And I just really appreciate each and every one of you for stepping up to being a club officer. I think you'll find it rewarding. And for those of you who look to go farther, one of the most rewarding roles that I have ever had was as area governor. I had never visited another club, but when I had a chance to be an area governor, I had 6 clubs at the time, and I went out and really began to see what Toastmasters is all about. I don't know that I necessarily recommend trying to be the statewide governor, but area governor is something that each and every one of you should put on your bucket list, because it will be one of those things that I believe will change your life and make you a better leader. So with that being said, Toastmasters, where leaders are made, and you all have stepped up to that challenge, and I thank you all, and Toastmasters thanks you. This is the 80th year of Toastmasters, the 75th year, actually it's more than 80 years in this, but it is the 75th anniversary of Toastmasters in Oklahoma. We'll be having our fall conference in November in Tulsa, and I also hope that each and every one of you will take that opportunity to try a district conference on. If you can't make the one in November, next April or May, there should be one somewhere in the Oklahoma City area. Go to the area contests that are coming up. Many of the clubs are finishing up their club contest this next few weeks, and area contests will start in September. Go see, especially this time when we're doing the humor speech contest, because I promise you at the area and the division contest, you will see some great humorous speeches. With that, thank you all for coming, and we'll look forward to seeing you at future Toastmaster events.